Hello again and welcome to the hotspot. My name is Webb. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't, I do hope you do. Now, there is a situation that is emerging at Manchester United, and it could be part of the reasons why we are seeing what looks like a delay in the confirmation of Sir Jim Ratcliffe as the 25% stake owner of Manchester United. I'll tell you in detail about that and how exactly Manchester United could get out of it. This is the hotspot. Let's get into it now. There is a rule according to UEFA. It's called the multi-club ownership rule, and this rule stipulates that you cannot own, or the two clubs under the same ownership cannot both play in the Champions League. And this has been there, and this would mean that if Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in as the 25% stake owner in Manchester United, or his Ineos comes in and takes over Manchester United, the football matters, excuse me, then United and Niche, because he already owns Niche, cannot both play in the Champions League. So that would mean that one, and the only way then, according to this rule book, the only way both of them can play in Europe, if one directly qualifies for the Champions League and the other is registered into the UEFA Conference League, the new league. Now, that's the only way United and Niche can play in Europe if Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in. Now, that's a huge situation because as it is now, if you look at that table, Niche is doing well in the French League One. They are lying second on the pile behind PSG, just a point behind PSG with 26 points. And it looks like this season is going to be something different for them. It's been long since Niche even thought about playing the Champions League or even winning the League One title. So obviously this season is important for them. And for a man like Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who took over this club in 2019 when he bought it for 100 million euros, knowing now that a few years later it could win the French League One would mean everything for him because that would be impact in the entire city of Nice. So you think it's important that Nice does actually qualify for the Champions League or even pushes to win the French League One, understandably. Now, so we as United supporters, knowing that United is a bigger club, obviously, and okay, maybe you should doubt how big United is compared to Nice. I just told you that Sir Jim Ratcliffe bought Niche in 2019 for about 100 million euros, yet he has just bought 25% in United for 1.3 billion. So it shows you the size of these two clubs. Now, whereas it's important for Niche to finish in the top four and go in the Champions League, it is also very important for United to be in the Champions League. That's why we've got to be. And not even the Europa League, the Champions League now. But according to the rule book now, it can't happen if Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in because you don't want to see what they will try to avoid, UEFA tries to avoid, is a possibility of seeing two clubs owned by the same person facing each other. Imagine a final where Nish is playing Manchester United, both owned by the same guy, and he's up there in the stands. You don't want, I think I see where they're coming from with that rule. You don't want to see one individual feeling all the might of, I own football now. I think you have a momentarily you would feel like you own football. If you are Sir Jim Ratcliffe and both your teams, Nish and Man U, reach the final of the Champions League. Imagine that. So it makes sense where they're coming from. But also, then how do you deal with a situation like this? Because we need Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I think as it is now, it is done and dusted. He's coming. There is no turning back. So, and United needs him. Football needs him because even UEFA needs a functional Manchester United. So, what exactly then do they do? And the beauty is, I watched an interview between Gary Neville, a United legend, talking to Alexander Seferin, the UEFA president, a few months ago, and he asked him about this multi-club ownership rule. And Seferin seemed to suggest that they are willing to bend it a little. They are not as rigid with that rule as you would think. I think they see it because he actually mentioned that not even just United, about 5 other club owners have come up and expressed interest in owning other clubs, but they are limited by that rule. So if you want football to progress and there are people and individuals who are willing to invest more in football, which is what FIFA wants, then obviously you've got to put rules in place that will allow them to come in there and be able to operate. So it's a tricky situation, but also like I said, UEFA and FIFA have got the obligation and duty to protect football from these very rich individuals because there are people out there who have got their money and they can come and own all the big clubs in the world. And you can say a scenario, if these limits are not there, if these controls are not there, you can see a situation where the Saudi chiefs, for example, own Real Madrid, Man United, Bayern, and all the major clubs in the world. Arsenal, they can afford to do that. Or you find one multi-billionaire from Russia, oil-rich billionaire, owning uh, Chelsea, Liverpool, and maybe PSG, and so you don't want that to happen, because then football will affect the game. Rather, money will affect the game of football. Rather, so I think it's a good rule, but then in this situation, it's quite challenging. How do you deal with it? Are you going to tell Ineos to back out of Niche, or are you going to lock them from Manu, or does it mean that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got to figure out someone to front as the owner of the 25% stake? So it's a tricky situation that United is in, and we've got to wait and see what UEFA is going to do. I think for a fact it's not going to affect. I think United they will figure out something. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe will come anyway. He will take over his 25% and he will still stay on of Niche. I think it is UEFA to figure out what to do with them and accommodate him and his money that is bringing into the game. That's what I think. But we just need to wait and see what will happen. But that's the situation the club is in. So it's a catch-22 situation. Probably I don't know whether it's a catch-22 for Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but I think it's mostly a catch-22 for UEFA. They are trapped by their own law. How then do you deal with it? Because United is a huge club. You need them functional, and this is a guy who is promising to make it functional. So how do you support them? That's interesting to see how exactly Seferin and his administration will deal with it. We are waiting, and we'll get to the update. But speaking of Niche and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Man U, of course, the lowest common multiple, LCM, of the three is one person, Jean-Claire Todibo. And why is the LCM is because Niche is owned by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but Todibo plays for Niche, and Man U wants Todibo from Niche. So he's the LCM. So the thing is, I will think about the possibility, and I've been talking about it here, that Manchester United needs to get in Todibo as well as Jan. And I was thinking about it and I'm saying, okay, whereas there is a possibility that we can get him maybe through the back door by osmosis, like I casually put it a few days ago, because now we have Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who is a co-owner, and the rules agree that we can get a player on loan in Jan from a club, an affiliate club, or a club under the same ownership as us. But how possible is it? How easy will it be for Niche to let go of their best centre back when they are in a seemingly fruitful title race? They are first in so many ages. How easy would it be for Niche to let go of their star player in Jan? If you think about it, then it might again take us back to the same situation we are in. We might be back to where we started, back to square one. That Niche might not be willing, even when Sir Jim Ratcliffe too would want. You don't want to improve United and compromise what you're building with Niche. At least the least you can do is wait for Niche to finalize their season in the summer and stay with their top player. He's still your player, he's still your club. Let them perform and finish as high as they can. And then in the summer, you can think about selling the player. Even the player himself, obviously. He's French, Todibo, and he sees that there's a possibility, because PSG is not that good. There's a possibility, actually, a huge chance that Niche can actually win the French League One. So, if you were Todibo, would you want to move from Niche now that is looking promising and join Manchester United right now? Would you? It's a tricky situation. So that's a bit of what's happening with United and the whole catch-22 situation we are in with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Niche, UEFA, Manu, and of course, I added in a bit of Jean-Claire Todibo. Hotspot, subscribe. My name is Webb. I'll catch you later, fam.